Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to episode 154 of the FAB and Fearless Business Booster Show. My name is Yinka. I'm a business strategist, I'm a speaker, I am a coach and an incoming author, and I support women to create wealth in and through their businesses by helping them to focus on what matters most for the business, which is cash flow and strategy, and what matters most for the business owner, which is mindset and habits. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this 154th episode of the Booster Shot Show, where each week at 1:30 p.m. UK time on a Wednesday, I come to you with a short, sharp shot to boost both you and your business with one powerful truth and one actionable tip. And so if you can see or hear me over on my LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube socials, feel free, jump into the chat, come and say hello. I am so excited to have you in the space. Welcome, Jackie Raymond. Thank you so much for letting me know that you can see me over on Facebook. It is so good to have you in the space, and thank you so much for dropping that comment. Thank you for also letting me know that we're live on LinkedIn. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. I will therefore trip really quickly over to YouTube to make sure that we are indeed casting live. And so ensuring that you are able to see and hear me in all the spaces. Hello, Dami, over on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi to you, Fab Lady, and thank you so much for joining me live today. Okay, we are talking about cash flow and introversion. That is the topic of our session today, and I'm so excited to share some insights with you and some really powerful parts of my own journey as an introvert, but not and also seeking to build a business. So before we get started, I have two tiny requests. Number one, let LinkedIn know, let Facebook, wherever you are watching me live right now, let them know that there's a little party going on that others are definitely going to want to get involved in by hitting the reshare button. Let them know that you are excited that we are doing the things. And so hit the reshare button to help the platforms call us in and rock and roll in terms of this Booster Shot show. That's number one. And number two, wherever you're watching me, tag a friend, tag an incredible woman in business who is making magic. And we want to make sure she gets all sorts of paid for the fabulous things that she is doing in the world. It is so exciting to see so many comments, so many women every single week coming into this space. And yeah, it's my commitment to come in and share really powerful insights for the platforms and for my audience on all things cash flow, business strategy, mindset, and habits. So introversion and cash flow is both topics are very close to my heart. Cash flow is close to my heart because of my desire to ensure that as many women in business are making magic, building sustainable, successful businesses. And cash flow is the air of a business. So it is the most important thing that you need to dedicate your time to. And as such, is very much something that I am passionate and leaned into. And on the other side, I'm really passionate about this topic because even though it is often very hard for many people to realize or to believe this, I am someone who is highly introverted. Now, part of the reason why people often don't believe that I'm an introvert is because people often misunderstand what introversion actually is. And I would like to thank the incredible Anu. She's an amazing client of mine, and she asked a powerful question that led on from a different question I was answering in a different space. And I just knew that this was something I wanted to bring into the Booster Shot show because there are so many misunderstandings and there are so many concerns. So the first thing to say is that introversion, and I often talk about, what version are you? And we often speak in terms of three types of versions. So you have extroversion, introversion, and then what's called ambiversion. And extroverts, and the first thing I want to share about introversion is any of those versions is what I like to call about an energy management system. So introversion is an energy, it describes a specific energy management system. Extroversion describes a different type of energy management system. Hello, LinkedIn user who is either Sonia or Sharon. It's so lovely to have you in the room, and I really, really appreciate you. So versions, extroversions, their energy management is focused on the external. So they get lots of energy being around people, engaging with people, having those conversations, being in the melee. So extroverts, they restore and replenish their energy through external sources. Introverts do it the opposite way. So they restore energy through solitude, through being alone, through going inwards and spending time essentially with what I'd like to call their favorite person, which is themselves. And then ambiverts, because it was discovered that extroversion and introversion, rather than them being opposites, is more like a scale. So it's more a sliding scale of how introvert stroke extrovert are you. And that's where ambiversion came in, where you kind of fall somewhere in the middle. Sometimes you're introvert, sometimes you're extrovert. There are also, and again, people love to enhance and complicate, as I like to describe, the description even further and speak more about things like I'm an extroverted introvert, or I'm an introverted extrovert. For me, I think the three specific categories are more than helpful enough because of the confusion. As I said, intro, extro, or ambiversion is about energy management. And this is where the confusion comes in. And particularly, this is where it becomes important for cash flow. Because introversion is not shyness. Being an introvert doesn't necessarily mean that you are shy. Shyness is a completely different way of being, thinking, and showing up. As an introvert, I am somebody who is not shy, but I have been shy in the past. I'm not shy anymore. Introversion, though, also isn't about social awkwardness. And it's really interesting. I see this. I've had some of the wildest comments you've ever heard when I have told people that I'm introverted, because they say things like, oh, but you're a speaker. And I'm like, yes, I am a public speaker. Hey, Latrice, lovely to have you in the room. She has said, thank you for clarity on this scale. Most people do not understand it's about how you manage energy. Totally. It really is about energy management, energy replenishment. It's not about shyness. It's not about social competence. The myth and the association is that introverts are socially awkward. Some introverts are highly socially awkward, but let me tell you for free that many extroverts are equally socially awkward. And what I will also say is that there are total sidebar and complete and utter tangent, but some people are made to feel more introverted because some people do not understand reasonable personal space. And so what I will say is that it is really important to recognize that you can be absolutely socially awkward. You can totally be shy, and you can be introvert or extrovert. Now, I have levels of social awkwardness. It's not so bad. It's been worse in the past, but it's getting better. But I'm not shy. I'm not at all shy. And so where the confusion comes is people often see how people present, in terms of, whether they are confident to speak up or, whether they can speak in front of 1,000 people. And they use that to determine whether someone is introverted or extroverted. That's not the determinant. What is the determinant is how they feel after being in such a big social space. Thanks, Daniela. You said I'm socially awkward and an introvert. Yeah, I have my moments in social spaces. So these are the things that I really wanted to first of all define. Introversion is about energy management. It isn't about shyness. It doesn't necessarily correlate to shyness, nor does it correlate to social competence versus awkwardness. It is its own measure, and it is only measuring and focusing on energy management. So that's the first thing I really wanted to share. But the reason I wanted to share it is because When I was starting my business, one of my biggest concerns was twofold. I say biggest, which I gave you a superlative and you were expecting one thing, but it was two things. Okay, so number one was, as an introvert, I am fully aware at how much we live in a world that is built to celebrate and laud extroversion. So they want you to be out, and in your face and all the things, all the time, always on, blaring lights. Yes, my hands are doing this specifically and deliberately because as an introvert, for many years, this is how I experienced the world. Everything was just in my face all the time. And it was exhausting. I found the world pre-lockdown exhausting. And that's one of the things that I think is really a really telling sign. Because when lockdown came along, I am completely unashamed to admit that I was one of those people that I was like, yes, praise the Lord, everyone shut up and everyone get out of my face. Lockdown was one of my golden eras. I am not ashamed. I'm probably feeling a tiny little bit of shame, but no, I was not ashamed. I was so peopled out that when the time came for us to lock down, I was living my best freaking life. And when it was time to unlock, I was literally unhappy with the state of the world that we were having to unlock. I think it's quite a good measure if you are old enough to have been in that space at that time. And again, I mean, lockdown was 5 years ago, so we're getting on. You know, it's been quite some time. But how you felt about lockdown and whether you really like I thrived like never before in lockdown because of the solitude. And that for me was a really big sign of the fact that I am a true introvert. And this is not true versus false, but you know, there were many people who thought they were introverted, but went into lockdown and were like, get me out of this level of solitude, and realized that they were much more extroverted than they thought. Now, Daniela raises a really good point because unfortunately, I locked down with 3 children. I had a stranded spouse in a completely different country. So I was homeschooling across 3 different ages, running a business all on my own. And honestly, the nattering and the nonstop chatter drove me to distraction, but not having to see other people was so my vibe. And I literally didn't, I was like, do I hate people? And I did really thought I hate people for a long time. I did. And I've come to discover it's not that I don't enjoy people, it's that I was all peopled out. And so it's a really interesting insight, and it's so powerful. Latrice says that she loved lockdown. I think Daniela probably would have loved lockdown if she actually got any solitude, but you had such tiny humans. So such a tiny human. So I can imagine that, you know, if yours was anything like mine, you were getting followed even into the toilet. So again, different experience. That's a motherhood penalty rather than introversion one. Nonetheless, introversion really enabled me, lockdown really enabled me to thrive as an introvert, and really helped me to understand certain things, because prior to lockdown, the only way that we really saw people doing business was all of that in your face all the time, showing up. And again, my hands are doing this deliberately because that's how it felt. I don't know if anyone else felt this way in their experience. But lockdown gave us a new paradigm. And in giving us a new paradigm, what it got to remind me of is something really, really powerful, which is the fact that difference does not have to mean disadvantage. That is the powerful truth I want to share with you today. Difference does not have to mean disadvantage. And up to that point, I had always thought that being an introvert was a disadvantage in business, because everything was structured for everyone to be so freaking extroverted all of the freaking time. And that for me was frustrating. But difference does not have to mean disadvantage, because labels do not have to mean limits. And so when I discovered the new paradigm in lockdown, and possibly before, but certainly in lockdown, it really flourished. What I began to recognize was that I made a really powerful decision. Oh, Charmaine also loved lockdown. So Charmaine and me and Latrice will, we will be part of the We Loved Lockdown crew. As Charmaine said, she always felt really guilty saying she loved lockdown. Well, I'm really glad, and I hope that this gives you some permission to completely assuage that guilt. It is not necessary. I loved lockdown. Obviously, I didn't love the fact that people were unwell. Obviously, I didn't love the fact that people were dying. That was incredibly heartbreaking and sad. But I absolutely did love not having to be around people all the time, every day, in your face, flashing everything all the damn time. So I really love the fact that if nothing else, we found a little conclave of humans who will declare aloud and proud that they really did flourish in lockdown. So back to introversion, as I decided that introversion was I had always known it to be a superpower for me, but I decided I was going to make it a superpower in my business. And this is the thing I want you to understand, ladies and gents. I am a huge believer, because I am someone who is abundance minded. I am someone who extends that abundance thinking beyond just the idea of having lots of things and doing the things that you want. One of the beliefs that is so powerful in my world is the idea that what you have is your advantage. I'll say that again. What you have is your advantage. So let me give you an example. When I started my business, I came into the space and I was looking at all these people who were like massively experienced, and they'd been doing it for years. And I was like, wow, I don't have their experience. And then I saw other people who had loads of testimonials, and I was like, wow, I don't have their testimonials. I don't have their experience. I don't have their testimonials. I don't have their insights. What am I going to do? Because I am not them and I don't have what they have. But in being able to decide that what I have is my advantage, I didn't have their experience, which means I didn't have any bad habits. I didn't have anything to unlearn because I didn't know anything. I wasn't locked into a specific way of doing things because I was brand new. So I was live and I was agile and I was nimble and I was ready to try new things. I didn't have loads and loads of testimonials, which means I could call people in and say, nothing is set in stone. We get to make this work and match for you. I didn't have, I wasn't wedded to a certain way of doing things, which meant that I was open to finding the best way. And I was never going to be bogged down by this is how we always do it way of thinking. And so deciding that what you have is your advantage absolutely extended to introversion too. And so what I then had to think about is, okay, well, if introversion is my advantage, how does that help me when it comes to cash flow? Because what we have been told and what is absolutely true is ain't no one buying nothing that you have if they don't know that you have it, which means you need to tell people, which means you need an element of visibility, you need an element of credibility, and that takes you being proactive and going out there with your full chest and your great work. And so what I began to realize is twofold. Number one, people spend so much time talking about visibility. And you see, Yinka's always coming with a contrarian point of view. I'm not a big fan of the idea of visibility. And the reason I will say that is because, certain people have visibility right now and it isn't great. Like P. Diddy is highly visible in this moment, and that is not helpful. We talk about visibility as though it is it's the fix all. And what I want you to understand is what is more important than visibility is strategic, intentional visibility. That means being seen and known for the right things in line with the goals that you have. So let me say that again. This is not about generic visibility. It's easy. I'll never forget the Wonder Bra advert that they had here in the UK that caused so much ruckus, which was essentially, it was the first time that they had put a woman in a bra on a billboard, and there were car crashes because some people just don't know how to act. But yeah, there were car crashes and there were complaints, and they were like, this is ridiculous. And Wonder Bra were loving the press. But ultimately, women, feminism groups came out and said this is disgusting. And, it was a big furor. The fact is that we have been sold the lie of visibility, and we have turned that into meaning that we have to be omnipresent. And what I want to remind you is I only know one omnipresent being, and I am not that being. However, it is really important for us to recognize that the kind of visibility that we want is strategic, is intentional. So no, I am not, you will never find me as an introvert, and even as a human being, you won't find me everywhere all the time, all day long. I've got other things to do. I'm somebody's wife. I'm 3 people's mother. I am, 3 people's sisters. I am 2 people's child. Like, I got stuff to do. I run a business. So the idea that I have to be everywhere all the time, no. I don't think that that is actually a helpful way of thinking about it. And again, jump in the chat if you're like, Yinka, you're just saying that because you're an introvert. I'm like, I'm saying that because I know how I think. There are people in my world, in my sphere. I see them all the time. And you know what's happened now? I've become blind to what they're doing. I see their face. I kind of have a sense of what they're, and I'm like, And I want to remind you that the beauty of strategic and intentional visibility is a reminder that it isn't that you are invisible. Of course not. The word visibility is in there, but it means that you are intentional. So it means that you're not everywhere. You are in the right spaces. You are in the right spaces. And when you're in the right spaces, you're intentional about what you do when you get there. So I go into spaces with a plan. If I'm going to show up to an event, and I've been laughing with one of my friends because she runs a membership that focuses on getting people to come to in-person events. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming. No. And then I saw one and she was like, I was like, yes, like, send me the link. She was like, wow, this must be an incredible event, Yinka, if you're willing to come out of your house. Like, half joke, half true story. I don't leave my house for no reason. I really, really don't. And so when you see me somewhere, you know that I'm there for a mission. You know that I am discerning. And the reason I am discerning is because, like gold, the rarity of my presence is a gift. I'm not everywhere all the time. Now, I totally understand. Extroverts will be in more places than me. I love that for them. And it's very, very possible for us to be in that mindset of, oh, well, if I'm not in all the places, then am I going to miss out? Am I going to miss opportunities? Am I going to not be in the spaces? And this is about ensuring that you are in the right spaces at the right time, doing intentional things. And it's also about another belief that I use to anchor my thinking when it comes to building my business and therefore creating my cash flow, which is that what is for me cannot miss me. It cannot. I like, you might hear that and think that sounds very woo or very religious. I'm a fully Bible carrying, tongue chasing Christian. I am unapologetic in my faith. But it isn't even about that. It's about I've decided long before now, I'm opting out of FOMO. I've opted out of it a few years ago and it changed my world. I don't have a fear of missing out. I just don't have it. And the reason I don't have it is because if I want to go somewhere, I will go. And if I don't want to go somewhere, I'm not going. It's not for me. The fact is that we have been so riled up energetically to feel like, oh, we should be there. We should go here. We should be seen. Seen for what? Seen doing what? Seen because of what? Visibility needs a purpose. Visibility needs containment and context. It needs to be, it's powerful because it is intentional. It's not powerful because it is plenteous. The things that are plenteous are often overlooked. Water is plenteous. Gold is rare. Which is more valuable? And it's so wild, because which is more valuable and which is more essential? I love that, Vita. Vita put in the chat, I decided that I decided. What is for me will not miss me, and what I have is my advantage. So the things that I have, my introversion, the fact that I don't want to be everywhere all the time, all the spaces like 24/7, that's my advantage. It means when I show up, for example, in real life spaces, people are like, oh, I cannot tell you how many people, and I just want to apologize if this happens to you. People walk up to me and they say, hi, Yinka, and I don't know them I've never seen them before in my life. I don't know them. I don't know their names. They start talking to me. They tell me about my business, my life, what's going on, because they read my content. And the thing I want you to understand is, if that happens to you and I look like I don't know who you are, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm definitely not too cool for school. Dude, I grew up in Peckham. I am as down to earth as they come. I just don't know who you are. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. So please, don't be offended if I look completely baffled. But the beautiful thing, and like I said, it's rare for me to go out now. My husband laughs at me and he talks about my celebrity status. And I'm like, I'm not a celebrity. He's like, oh, you're an influencer. And I'm like, I'm not an influencer. I'm a person of influence. I've accepted that. I am a person of influence. But part of the reason why I am a person with influence is because I do show up. I show up in my content. I show up in the spaces and in the formats that work effectively for me. So I like to write. So I write. I like video not so much, so I do it once a week. Every week, Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube with you, like I'm doing right now. As I grow and I get better, maybe I'll start a YouTube channel, although this is streaming to YouTube. Go and subscribe over there. But you know what I mean? The things that I'm good at are the things that are my advantage. I'm really not about to pretzel myself and turn myself into something I'm not in order to build a bit. You will never find me dancing on YouTube, on TikTok. No one. I am someone's mother. I have teenagers. If I started shaking my booty on the internet, there will be consequences. It's not going to happen. It's not me. And that isn't for me to shame or shade anybody else. It is just not my vibe. I shake my booty plenty. And that's another, introverts also can absolutely dance. I don't know who sent that memo. Someone literally walked up to me as I was dancing on the dance floor and said, oh, I thought you were an introvert. Didn't know you could dance. Really? So introversion in their mind disrupts rhythm. I am a Niger babe. Trust me when I tell you, there's no problem with the dancing over here. But I digress. Let me focus and share with you the introversion. Labels do not have to mean limit, and difference does not have to mean disadvantage. That means that as an introvert, all the money you want to make, you get to make. But the thing I really want to caution you against is listening to extroverted people giving you extroverted strategies to make that cash. That's the thing I want to caution you against. That's the thing I want to caution you against. So many people are being given extrovert focused strategies and then thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, this is not sustainable for me. As I said, what you have is your advantage. So this is about making sure you will use it to your advantage. And you will do it in a way that works effectively for you. For me, for example, as a mum, as an introvert, as someone who is busy and has lots of things going on, I can't lean into a 10x, spend 8 hours a day doing social media. That's not my vibe. So in my world, I work on the premise of what I call a 5-5-1 framework. I work on a 5-5-1 framework. That is a habit-focused approach to building my audience, making my offers, and making my money. I do it little and often because that's what works for me. And as someone who, has made millions, plural, now in her business, I can assure you that it absolutely works. going full force, extrovert, massive, that also works too. Ladies and gents, anything that is based on a sound principle works. Don't let anybody fool you into telling you that emails are dead, or webinars are dead, or VSLs are dead, or challenges are dead. Nothing is dead. Everything is working. Anything that someone is telling you is not working, someone is making $1 million as we speak. So everything works. So the question is, what will work for you? And that's where the courage comes in. Because as I said before, so many of the people who are out there in the world right now, they are extroverts, and they don't know that everybody doesn't feel the way they feel. Everybody, they don't know that everybody doesn't like get really excited about being in people's faces all the time. They don't know that because that's their world. The only reason we know different is because we grow up in a world where we are a minority. When you grow up as a minority, you also understand the position of the majority. And there are much less introverts in the world than extroverts. And so, what I want to really offer you, I told you the powerful truth that difference does not have to mean disadvantage. What you have is your advantage. So, my one actionable tip for you today is to really think about, what do you have? If you are an introvert, how do you make that your advantage? How do you, instead of thinking about omnipresence, you think about strategic presence, you think about intentional presence? I've seen extroverts in networking events. And again, networking isn't my primary strategy because I don't like peopling that much. But I tell you one thing, I am fantastic at strategic networking because I go in, do the things, and come out. And people often think, oh, you're an introvert, so you're going to be, socially awkward. Once again, I'm not particularly socially awkward. And if I'm going somewhere, I'm going there with an intention. I set myself the target. I work on my strategies. I go in, I execute, and I leave. And I know that sounds really clinical. We're supposed to talk about, connection and nurture. And what I want to remind you is that when you are your most authentic, that is when you are your most magnetic, that's when you are your most authentic, that is when you're most magnetic. Be you. Do you. Stop feeling like you have to be and do like everybody else. And so I really want to encourage you, introverts out there, please do not allow anyone to lie to you and tell you that, you can't make money, or the cash flow is gonna flow, the flow is gonna be more of a trickle. Not at all. You get to think about how you manage your energy. So again, as an introvert, habit-based strategies work better for me than event-based ones, because event-based ones are highly energetically expending and I need time to rest in between. It's not that I don't use event-based ones, but it means that I have to have recovery time. I build in recovery time. I look at what is available to me, and it means, as I said, I'm not everywhere all the time, but where I am is where the magic happens. And so that's your actionable tip. Have a look at what you have. If you are an introvert, really think about how you make that introversion your advantage. You like more solitary time. You like internal energy boosting. That powerful time for reflection, for inquiry, for ideation. It's why introverts make the best salespeople. True story. Maybe I'll talk about that on another show. But yes, so if that is everything I wanted to share with you today, ladies and gents, I hope this has been useful. Please drop your biggest takeaway in the chat. If you like the cut of my jib and it sounds like the work that I do, helping women with cash flow, business, strategy, mindset, and habits could be your vibe, and you want to find out a bit more, please drop into my chat today, or in the comments, leave the word introvert. Even if you're not an introvert, I don't mind if you're not an introvert, but just so I know that you came from this video, and I will be in touch. And then, yeah, I'm having a little party later. It's called the Mighty Mixer. It's a celebration of all the fabulous ladies who have come into my space over the last couple of years doing work on Cashflow. It starts at 6 p.m. I haven't announced it because it isn't a public facing group. Or it's not a public facing, it's a very special, rare event. But it's 6 p.m. in UK time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern. If you would like an invitation, I am sharing 5 invitations today to the Mighty Mixer at 6 p.m. If you can make it, come along. I think you will have a blast. There are some of the most amazing women, like anywhere, that have come and worked with me on their cash flow, on their business strategy. It's really going to be good vibes. So if you want to come along, please, please, please drop me the word party in the comments or in my DMs, and I will drop you that Zoom link for you to come and join us. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to jet. This one's been a long one. I'm getting really excited because 2 weeks' time will be our 3-year anniversary episode. I'm so excited, so I'm going to calm down. But in the meantime, ladies and gents, have a beautiful rest of your day. I will see you all in the spaces. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.